Good afternoon, Facebook Live followers on WKYT's Facebook. Brian Milam, Lee K. Howard, Dave Baker. We are in a chilly, and I mean cold, Nashville as we await the quarterfinal round of the SEC tournament for the Kentucky Wildcats. And gentlemen, we just heard a massive roar just a couple of minutes ago because it looks like Florida is about to take out LSU.
Andrew Nebhart hit a three for the Florida Gators with 1 second left on the clock. There's 1 second left on the clock. I believe they're in a timeout right now, so I don't know what the Will Wadeless LSU Tigers are going to be able to draw up with 1 second, but they're down three, and it looks like there's a first big upset of this tournament.
We talked about it the other night on our JMI special on the UK network. How much would all this stuff affect LSU?
That's right.
Will Wade came out yesterday, said he wanted to coach, but he did not go in for an interview with the school and the NCAA. And Javonte Smart, who he was allegedly talking about on the tape, did that. He was reinstated today. Don't know how much he's practiced with the team or not, what effect did that have. So who knows? One point technically, since we're on Facebook Live, I currently have no mix minus in router 2. If somebody could help me out with that, we'd be great.
76-73, that is now a final. Florida upsets LSU in the quarterfinal round of the SEC tournament.
So the Gators are in the semifinals. As for Kentucky, the Wildcats take on the Alabama Crimson Tide, and it's been a little more than 2 months, almost 2.5 months, since the only meeting between the Tide and the Cats. And, you know, back then, everybody thought Kentucky loses the first game, Lee K, and then everybody went into panic mode. 2.5 months later, I think the Cats fans have kind of calmed down a little bit. No, they're in a pretty good spot.
I think that kind of woke up the Wildcats, if you will. The first conference game of the year, obviously the first conference game for all the freshmen on the team, and I don't think they knew exactly what to expect going into an environment there where against an Alabama team that hadn't had success against Kentucky, and they kind of took one on the chin, and I think it did help propel them throughout the rest of the conference season.
Here's the thing that concerns me so much about it. We can talk about the game in a minute while we're here and everything, but in terms of what you just talked about with that roar with Florida.
My.
Okay, so Florida, up until this point, everybody said they were in. But, you know, they do all the power rankings and everything on ESPN, and Jimmy Dykes pointed out during the broadcast that right now Florida was about a 56% chance to get in. If they lost, they had 29% chance to get in. And if they won, it was like 87%. Earlier today, Dari Noka from the SEC Network was texting back and forth with Joey Brackets and said, okay, so what does this mean for Alabama today? And he said it's simple. Alabama beats Kentucky, and they're in. They lose, and they're out. And we laugh at John Calipari for saying somebody's always having a T-shirt night or they got something to play for. I mean, Kentucky is squarely in. They're going to be a 1 or 2, but this is it for Alabama.
And, you know, you're going to hear from John Calipari later in our newscasts about a correlation between the Tennessee game in Knoxville, which was a revenge game, and now you've got an Alabama team fighting for their lives. They are backed into the corner, and there's only one way out, and that is straight ahead, and that means taking out Kentucky today.
And they've proven that they've done it once already. They're not going to be a team that comes in here timid at all. They know that they've beat the Wildcats, and Cal said last night they might have an advantage on their side, having played a game already last night against Ole Miss, a hard-fought game, so they're going to have some momentum going into tonight's game. And like Buzz said, this is do or die for Alabama. It's either in the NCAA tournament or out of the NCAA tournament. So in some ways, they have more to lose than the Wildcats do in this game.
There's no question. You look at what happened last time. First of all, Tevin Mack, the kid that transferred from Texas, not a guy that shoots a ton of threes, but there have been 2 games this year. There have been 2 games this year where he's hit 5 threes in a game. There's only been 1 where he hit 6, and that was Kentucky when he hit 6 out of 8. And then Dante Hall had a monster game too. It was 10 points, 11 rebounds, something like that. And so the big question, obviously, though, how does Reed Travis fit into the mix? How much does he need to do tonight? How much are they back in sync with him being gone?
Well, the first time around, Reed Travis, the Cats went to him early. 2 dunks inside the first 4 minutes. Inside the first television timeout, UK went right into Reed Travis. First game, 12 points, 6 rebounds against Alabama. What impact will he have on the game? Will he be able to free up P.J. Washington? Because when Reed was on, doing the stuff that does not appear in a lot of the box scores, P.J. Washington, people said, okay, SEC Player of the Year candidate, National Player of the Year candidate, which we knew that was a long shot with Zion doing what he did. But what impact does he have? How much does he play tonight?
I think he gets in there, and Cal just kind of determines his playing time based on how he's going.
Yeah.
And I don't think he plays a whole lot tonight because I think they're going to want him a lot tomorrow if potentially that Tennessee game awaits in the semifinals. But, even Avery Johnson last night after the win against Ole Miss was already talking about Reed Travis. And at that point, we didn't know, or he didn't know, whether or not Reed would be in the lineup and how much that would impact the defense and the offense for Alabama. And as only Avery Johnson would say, I mean, they were certainly concerned about and we just happen to be joined by Avery Johnson right here with us right now.
Well, Alabama's got to play good basketball.
Stop it. Just stop it.
Avery Johnson is my guy.
Stop it.
I love the way he coaches his team. I saw Wimp Sanderson yesterday when we were going through. I would love to see Avery come out in the plaid jacket just to give homage, pay homage to the Wimp. Patino did that once, and it got standing room only ovation. I think Avery Johnson, he's never beaten Cal in the SEC tournament. He's perfect against everybody else.
Right.
But can Alabama get over the big blue hump that they cannot get over the last several years?
Yeah, here's the question. Don't forget to monitor speaking questions.
I'm watching Facebook Live right
He's
here.
looking Facebook questions.
If you have a question, let me know.
The thing about that is Avery Johnson, with his NBA experience, he's a matchup guy.
Yeah.
And I think absolutely what he's going to do at the start of this game, I think he's going to go right at Reed Travis. I think they're going to try to run from some sets for Dante Hall. They're going to try to see how mobile he is with that knee. B, what kind of condition he's in, and C, try to get him in some foul trouble. So in addition to that, I think what you're going to see is them just come out and just play really, really loose. I was really perplexed, and I don't know what to make of it, because Cal is really good at the gamesmanship. But he not only went to the point of saying that Reed Travis would play, but he had the guys on his website get some video last night, which is really unusual for a coach in this situation, don't you think?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we also heard that, last week they hung up his jersey at the Ole Miss game. Is he going to play then? And he didn't play. So there is some gamesmanship, no question. I did predict, unfortunately, when Kentucky was in Knoxville, with our partners at VLT, we did a Facebook Live there, and I said, if I am Rick Barnes, Kentucky has one Achilles heel, in my opinion. That is the inside play. Nick Richards often gets in foul trouble. You're right. I think Alabama goes right at Reed Travis, test the knee, because if he was to get into foul trouble, then EJ has got to step up.
Right.
And against Tennessee, EJ got into foul trouble.
And I think that what we now hope is that Reed Travis comes into this game tonight and has a Zion-esque return to the lineup, kind of like Zion Williamson did last night for Duke. It looked like he was fresh and ready to go. So there's also the flip side of the argument. Maybe Reed doesn't come into this game tonight rusty. Maybe he comes into the game somewhat rested. He hasn't had to play the past 5 games. And so there is an argument that he could come into the game with a little bit more oomph than the other guys who've been playing all these games since he's been out.
Hey, if I'm Cal, I say, Reed, look, we don't expect a lot out of you, but your presence on the court means a great deal. You've got 5 fouls. Get in there and bang around some people, and let's see how they respond, because, yes, Alabama can take it at Kentucky, but it works both ways. Get it to Reed, let him lower the shoulder a couple of times, because you get hit once by it, okay, you get hit twice, you're going to be a little gun-shy with it.
And I think that's the best point that's been made up here today, is the fact that here's what you got to do. And you got to go at people, and you've got to make them play at both ends of the court.
Sure.
Look at what Zion Williamson did. Sure, he did a lot last night, but more than that, it was his presence. They had to figure out where he was at. Now, they couldn't stop him, but they knew where he was. They knew where he was.
Only Nike can stop him.
And they're always head on a swivel looking to see where he is. That's what Travis can do. The other thing I think is going to be interesting tonight, I can't remember the matchups from the last time, but is Ashton Hagen's going to be the guy that they're going to roll him out there and say, hey, this dude, he ain't getting 6 tonight in terms of 3-pointers.
Yeah.
Okay, let me take us to Facebook Live here, get a couple of questions here. And by the way, this is brought to you by Bluegrass Orthopedics, our good friends over there. A couple of questions. Stephanie asks, do you think Ashton plays great tonight? Kind of leads into what you were just saying. How do you feel like Ashton comes out and plays tonight?
I think that starts on the defensive end.
Right.
Personally, Cal needs him to play defense first and foremost. You need him to facilitate the basketball. Secondly, third, whatever offense you get out of Ashton when he's not driving to the basket is a positive and a plus. if he can shoot the ball, if he hits a three, gets an outside jumper, it softens up the defense a little bit. But I think Ashton starts it on defense, adds to it with passing the ball, driving, dishing, what have you. I think I could see him scoring, 10 points, having about 6 assists. That'd be a great day for him.
You get 10 points from Ashton Hagens, that's a big
good.
bonus.
Yeah.
I mean, you want him to do nothing
He
but
had
get
double
out
digits
there.
the first time against Alabama.
At the beginning of the season, they were over the charts, the UK people were, in terms of listing the steals and then the revised steal numbers. Okay, if he gets those, that's fine. But just be the disruptor out there and don't let somebody go where they want to go. Make that guard turn and come back into help that's waiting.
All right, Buzz, I'll ask you this question from Jackson. How many points does P.J. Washington have to score tonight to get a win for the Kentucky Wildcats?
I don't know that he has to score a certain number, but I think he's got to be that beast Washington instead of P.J. Washington. And so I think, he's got to get in there. He's got to be active. He's got to show that he can do a lot of different things. It'll be a home game atmosphere. We can talk about crowd and everything like that. And I think there'll be a bunch of folks from Tennessee here, but it's just been kind of different, but I think that PJ has to have a big game.
He has to at least be in the double figures, I think. And if PJ can be 3J Washington and knock down a couple of three-pointers, that would be a big help. Okay, another question here from Steven says, actually from Samuel says, thoughts on Travis coming back after being down? We talked about that. Christopher says, if Kentucky gets beat tonight, do they automatically drop to a 2 seed in the tournament? NCAA tournament.
That's debatable.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you do and what everybody else doesn't do. I mean, everybody seems to think that Gonzaga is going to stay at 1, but I mean, and that's going to be on the strength of the fact that they're the only team this year to have beaten Duke with Zion Williamson. But that was back in what, November, December?
That was back in 2018.
That was early. Right, it absolutely was. I think North Carolina is really trying to make a case for a number 1. The way that they're playing, of course, they played Duke in the semifinals of the ACC tonight. And then I think Kentucky, Tennessee, if they meet, could very well be for a number 1.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get Virginia, Carolina, and Duke at a number 1. I think that's really tough to get 3 number 1s from one conference if, let's say, Carolina runs the table during the ACC tournament. I think if Kentucky was to lose today, you look at, okay, does Tennessee lose? Who else loses? Because you'd figure then if Kentucky does lose, Duke would be a 1. Then they need to knock off Carolina, probably need to beat Virginia, things like that. It's a trickle-down effect.
I think when you look at the seeds, the 4 number 1 seeds, I don't think they're going to give 3 number 1 seeds to the ACC. Yeah. So they're going to give 2 of them, Gonzaga and the other 2. And that, like you said, that's going to be Virginia and either Duke or North Carolina. And I think the SEC will slip into that 4th seed. Whether or not Tennessee or it's Kentucky will certainly be determined.
No offense to anybody else, but I mean, you could make the case that this half of the Kentucky bracket now here is playing for an SEC championship because you've got Florida moving on. Who you got in there playing now? Auburn's playing.
You're going to have Mississippi State.
Mississippi State plays again tonight.
They play
Tennessee
tonight, so they're on the Kentucky half of the bracket.
South Carolina, who
that's right.
somehow
the Fighting Frank Martin.
How did they get into the 4 seed? I mean, when you think about the great season turned in by Ole Miss, who did falter down the stretch.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, by the way, that Columbia team from the eastern part of the conference somehow slides into the 4.
But I mean, seriously, you'd have to think that whether it's Kentucky or a Tennessee that comes out of this side of the bracket, they're going to be a big favorite in a Sunday championship game.
Absolutely will. Okay, Paula says y'all going to lose tonight. Unfortunately, Paula, we're not playing, so we're not going to lose anything at all.
Well, Rob Bromley coaches the WKYT All-Stars.
I'm not real sure.
I
just wanted to make note that we're actually not winning or losing.
Come on.
I'm not even suiting up or stretching. Steven says, how many threes do we need to hit tonight?
I think you just have to score 1 more point than the other team. I don't think 3-pointers are a necessity. It'd certainly be nice, but if Tyler Hero gets off to a good start, I'm a firm believer in the first 5 minutes of the game or the first 5 minutes of the second half. I want to see what Keldon Johnson does because when he's off, he is off. But when he's on, man, look out.
I agree. A lot of people from the Kentucky side of things don't want to hear this, but I always go back and I've always remembered this. Something Patino said early on. It's not how many threes you make, it's how many you limit the other guys to.
True.
And if you look at what happened last time, Tevin Mack don't hit six threes.
And in that game, the first game on January the 5th, Kentucky went through a stretch in the second half of about 3.5 minutes where they didn't score a single point, and Alabama built a 10-point lead on them. Yeah. They've got to avoid runs like that. They certainly cannot go cold. Randy asked, North Carolina's beaten Duke twice. How can Duke be a number one seed over them at this point? Well, the answer is Zion Williamson.
Well, sure.
The answer is Zion didn't play all but about 20 seconds.
First minute and a half.
First minute. And so, and the committee's already said that they will consider Duke team with and without Zion. So, if Duke comes out and handily beats North Carolina tonight, the committee's going to look at Duke as a better team than North Carolina, even though Carolina's beat Duke twice.
It'll be interesting to see how some of that turns out in terms of next week once we are able to get some insight from the committee about what they did, because Mitch Barnhart, the UK athletics director, is on that selections committee.
All right, we're going to wrap it up here. Let's talk predictions here. Kentucky and Alabama. I have not seen a point spread, but you'd think that Alabama certainly has a little bit of momentum, playing one game already, so they have a little feel for it. I think Kentucky comes out, and I'm not going to say they blister Alabama early, but I think this is a team that's going to slowly pull away and win by 12 or 13 today. That's just my opinion.
That's a big spread. I was going to say a little bit closer. I think Kentucky does win tonight over Alabama. It's going to be an ugly back and forth type of game. I think Tyler Hero comes out and hits a couple of threes, and he's probably the player of the game for the Wildcats. And I say Kentucky wins by 6 or 7.
I don't know about final score. This game, I'm telling you, from a Kentucky standpoint, it scares you to death. I mean, again, Calipari jokes about it all the time, about T-shirt night and everything. I mean, at this time of year, it's who needs the game the most. And nobody needs it worse than Alabama. Kentucky's going to be a great seed in the NCAA tournament. They've been a very focused team. They've locked into what Cal is doing. But I listen, I would have predicted a double-digit win if Ole Miss had gotten through, because Ole Miss is going to the NCAA tournament as well. This is your proverbial dog fighting for his life tonight, and I think it's going to be a very difficult game for Kentucky. I would not be surprised if, once again, this is not a last possession game.
John Calipari, 12-1 in the Bridgestone Arena during the SEC tournament. The only loss back in 2013 when the Cats did not have Nerlens Noel. And again, Avery Johnson, as the Alabama coach, has not defeated Kentucky in the postseason. We'll see what happens tonight. For Dave Baker and Lee K. Howard, I'm Brian Milam. Thanks for watching Facebook Live, and we'll see you tonight after the game between Kentucky and Alabama.